And we are in conference room 312. Our first measure today is SB2 377 relating to state tax examinations. First up, we have Dags in support.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. Isaac Choi from Department of Taxation. This particular bill, we do have a criminal statute for failure to respond. The criminal statute is like a nuclear option. This just gives us a lesser option, a civil option, instead of enforcing the criminal statute. And that's all this bill does.
Great.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next up, we have Tax Foundation with comments.
Thank you, Chair and members. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation. We first question whether the bill is even necessary because of the powers that Director Choi said that he's got. And we also are concerned that the bill is very, very vague and really does not have standards as to when it's applicable or not. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Tom. And it's good to see you. We missed you the last few times.
I've been around several places.
All right, members, questions? Seeing none, moving on to SB 2379 relating to the special enforcement section. First up, we have Dags in support.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. Isaac Choi from Dags. All this does is expands the definition for a special fund. We're probably doing it now, so we just want to make sure the definitions of the things that we're doing in the special fund matches the law. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Tax Foundation with comments.
Thank you, Chair and members. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation. We again question the necessity for this bill. The the tail's not supposed to wag the dog. The dog's supposed to wag the tail, the dog being the department and the tail being the special enforcement section. I do understand that the bill is a way for the department to spend down their tax administration special fund, but we question whether the that budget that special fund is even appropriate because it's supposed to be dealt with in the budgeting process and the appropriation process. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Members, questions? Seeing none, moving on to SB 2808 relating to the Hawaii Technology Development Corporation. First up, we have DBED with comments.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. DBED stands on its testimony offering comments.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Dags with comments. I'm sorry, we should be on 2599. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. I'm on the wrong bill. I skipped one. I'm sorry. Can we go back, members? SB 2599 relating to the tax credit for research activities. First up, we have DBED with comments.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. The DBED also stands on the written testimony providing comments for 2599.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Dags with comments. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Oceanit in support.
Good morning, Chair. Oceanit stands on its written testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Tax Foundation with comments.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation. We'll stand on our written comments.
Thank you so much. And we have HCDC in support. Okay, members, questions? Seeing none, we may now move on to SB 2808. First up, we have the Chamber in support.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Trevor Abazua, Chamber of Commerce, Hawaii. We stand in support of this bill and stand on our written testimony.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have DBED in support.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. DBED will stand on its written testimony in support. Thank you.
Wow, you guys are really efficient. I appreciate that. Next, we have the Hawaii Food Industry Association in support. Okay, BNF with comments and Maui Chamber in support. Members, do we have any questions? Seeing none, moving on to SB 3054 relating to the Hawaii Film and Creative Industries Development Special Fund. First up, we have Creative Industries Division in support.
Aloha, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Georgia Skidder from Creative Industries at DBED. We stand in support of this measure. It's an admin bill, and just want to note that it's a great use of taxes, of funds that come through rental facilities that we manage at DBED and depositing those into a fund to help our local independent filmmakers.
Excellent. Next, we have Tax Foundation with comments.
Thank you, Chair, members. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation. We do question the use of or the expansion of the scope of the special fund. We are concerned because special funds are used to obfuscate the budgeting processes. And we think this should be handled by appropriation as opposed to special funding. Thank you for the ability to testify. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. We also have Ohina NMG Network, Hawaii International Film Festival, number of individuals, Pacific Invasion Media, and Ann Chung all in support. Members, do we have any questions? Seeing none, moving on to SB 3243. Let me mute my phone. First up, we have HDC in support. Okay, we have BNF with comments and the Maui Chamber in support. Members, questions, comments? I'm sorry, members, questions? Okay, seeing none, moving on to SB 3337 relating to the economy. First up, we have DBED in support.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. DBED stands on its written testimony in support. Just wanted to comment that what we've provided in our testimony is some of the languages from the original measure so that the committee is aware what we were asking for originally. So I just wanted to make that comment. Okay.
Thank you. Next up, we have Chamber of Commerce in support.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. We stand on a written testimony in support, but do want to comment that we request an amendment to Section 3 of the bill to include workforce and economic development and also defense-related sectors. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Office of Planning in support. Mary Alice, are you with us?
Hi, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Lauren Permiano, standing in for Mary Alice Evans, the Director of the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. We stand on our written testimony in support of this measure and would respectfully recommend that the original framework set out in SB 3337 be restored. It calls for a focus on not only economic disaster mitigation and economic diversification, but also import substitution and community development. And all four of these areas are critical for us to plan for our state's long-term and sustainable economic recovery and resilience. So thank you for your consideration and happy Aloha Friday.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Hawaii State Energy Office in support.
Aloha, Chair. Thank you for hearing this bill. Our testimony is in support, and similarly, we also noted the SD1 version, which also is similar to the original bill in the sense that it has import substitution, and we provided some other additional items for your consideration and including in the bill in our testimony along the lines of import substitution. So thank you for considering our request.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have HCDA in support.
Good morning, Chair Quinlan, Vice Chair Holt. Right now, tomorrow, interim executive director for ECD. We stand on our written testimony in support and just note two CIP projects that were removed from the current version. And we respectfully ask that it be reinstated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have HCDC in support.
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair, members of the committee, Len Higashi with Hawaii Technology Development Corporation. Sorry for jumping on late to this hearing. HDC stands on our written testimony in support with comments. We just wanted to point out that the general funds used to cover the salaries would require conversion for the HCAP to FTE positions for HCAP. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Next up, we have the Kapolei Chamber of Commerce in support.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Kieran Polk, Kapolei Chamber of Commerce. We stand in support of SB 337 SD2. We do have two requested amendments noted, one for the $12,125,000 for Saratoga Avenue, much needed electrical and infrastructure for affordable housing economic development in our community, and then also $500,000 for community-based revitalization grants. We respectfully request those two amendments and we support this measure. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Members, do we have any questions?
Actually, Chair,
Please.
for DBED, in your written testimony, you've highlighted a request for $150,000 for Creative Hub portal and application development to market Hawaii's creatives to drive businesses and entrepreneurial opportunities. I'm just curious, in the current version, is that not included under the 1.3 million?
No, it's not. Actually, it's
Okay.
an addition in the line item that has 50,000 for the digitization of standard film permits. It should go in that line. That's 150,000, 100 for the portal, and then also the 50,000 for the new system.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Members, any further questions? Seeing none, moving on to SB 3334. First up, we have DBED with comments.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. DBED stands on his written testimony supporting the intent. Just wanted to note a discrepancy in Part 3, Section 5. It should be corrected to say Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism. We've noted that in our testimony. Thank you.
Next up, we have BNF with comments.
Morning, Chair Quinlan, Vice Chair Takayama, and Craig Hirata, Director of Finance of the State of Hawaii. BNF notes that Section 15 of this bill further amends Section 6 of Act 268, Session Laws Hawaii 2019, to increase the general obligation bond appropriation for the stadium district from 170 million to 350 million in FY20. Of the original appropriation amount, 20 million has been allotted to date. That's a correction. However, the FY20 GO bond appropriation will lapse on June 30, 2022, because Article 7, Section 11 of the Constitution of the State of Hawaii provides that no appropriation of GO bonds can extend longer than 3 years. If the committee intends to move this appropriation forward, BNF suggests reducing the appropriation made in Act 268 from 170 million to 20 million that has already been allotted, and making a new GO bond appropriation for the desired amount in FY23. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Dags with comments.
Morning, Chair Quinn, Vice Chair Hope, and members of the committee. Kurt Otaguro, Comptroller. I'm with HCDA and Stadium Authority here to first thank you for the opportunity to testify on this important bill. I'll actually let Craig speak first, if you don't mind.
Please, go ahead.
And then I'll add on.
Absolutely.
So Chair Quinlan, Vice Chair Holt, members of the committee, thanks for allowing us to testify on this. And I kind of asked Comptroller and Ryan Andrews to be up here because they are also a part of the stadium and the stadium project. The stadium has become part of this bill as a result of a change on the Senate side, where the intent is for HCDA to be the zoning and regulatory authority over the 98 acres. Now, I know there's some errors in the bill that need to be fixed to reflect that correctly, but that was the intent. None of the stadium authority property or lands is being transferred to the Hawaii Community Development Authority. It was intended that they would still have control over the lands under their jurisdiction, and HCDA would be the zoning and regulatory authority. and possibly use our zoning and entitlement powers and approving powers for the stadium district. That was the intent. In the ensuing week or so after that bill was passed on the Senate side, Comptroller Chris Kinimaka, myself, and Ryan Andrews, we met and we talked about this. And we all recognize that the stadium and the surrounding area development is probably one of the most important and visible public projects in the state of Hawaii. We also agree that it's necessary to move this project along in the most expedient way. So we understand the Senate's intent in wanting to put HCD as the regulatory authority. But because the RFP process is moving along right now for the stadium and the mixed use, what this bill has sort of the unintended consequence, I think, of is having some of the developers of the proposed developers feeling, and others feeling kind of skittish and anxious about having another layer of governance in that structure. So stadium authority, and then having HCDA. So what we propose, and Comptroller Otoguro can give more background on the RFP process, but what we propose is to try to clean up the 206E portions and the 109E portions to make clear what the Senate's intent was, if that's the way the committee wants to go, so that we have a regulatory agency like HCDA, like we did have in Kakako, and then we have stadium authority that holds property, can determine what they want to do with their lands under their jurisdiction, the 98 acres. But we clean up the bill, but defer the effective date to maybe sometime in July 1st of 2025. This will allow the RFP process to move forward, and whoever the developers are to move forward, and they'll have to use city entitlement and zoning. And in 2025, let's say, HCDA would then be sort of established, and then we would promulgate rules at that time, if that was still the desire of the legislature. I think it'll allow enough time for that process to go forward and maybe remove one layer of sort of governance. I mean, that's our proposed, proposed way to do this, kind of keeping in line with what we think is the intent of the Senate. If there's any projects that are approved during that time, when from now to, let's say, July 1st, 2025, when we promulgate rules in 2025, or actually it'll take us a couple of years after that to promulgate rules, whatever that's approved by the city will be sort of legal, non-conforming uses under our rules. Now, just keep in mind that even if we defer the establishment date of the HCDA, we have the power and the ability to assist other state agencies like Dags, like Stadium Authority, to help with their development needs. We're already doing that with some other state agencies right now, so we can still do that even though the effective date is deferred. So that's our collective thinking on this, and I wanted to bring all of us up just to show that in this important project, we wanted to be unified in our approach to this on the House side and provide a kind of a reasonable path forward that I think complies, is aligned with the Senate side and hopefully with yours as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Craig. The reason why I asked Craig to speak was that's the specific ask of this committee for review. But some of you we've not had the opportunity to really brief you on what this project is about. And 50 years ago, as you know, Aloha Stadium was built. And it was that legislature at the time in the 60s that had to make that same decision that you're here for now, whether to rebuild Aloha Stadium, Honolulu Stadium, which was in Mo'iliili, embedded in the community, That was what, 20,000 seats, probably Dell remembers, bench seats, wooden, not many restrooms, it was just a stadium. And the vision was, the legislature found that moving the stadium to Halava was the right thing to do. It was a community in Mo'ili that really embellished Honolulu Stadium during game day. When we moved it to Halava, it was a great thing. We had 50,000 seats, individual seats, a lot of parking, great restroom facilities, more concessions, but no community with a parking lot. But Hawaii is good. We create tailgating, and that became the core essence. This stadium is not, this project that you're reviewing now is not just a stadium. We're trying to revitalize and create new experiences in the Halava district for the community. And we call it an entertainment district for that reason. It's in the early 20th century, there was a way that we watched athletic events, and that changed. It's in the 21st century. We have a lot of options now. We have TV, we have internet, we have live streaming, we have mobile. The community views and wants options. And so we think that this community with a stadium can have a different experience, leveraging what is available to us today, which is a lot of technology. Swap meet is the same thing. We believe that when we create a district that surrounds the stadium as an anchor, that we can cross-fertilize with small business. It can be an incubator. There's just a lot of things if the legislature wants to look at this project long-term. And I mean long-term because while we've been at it for 15 years and 10 years hard and about 5 years with the consultants, the state has invested a lot. And we're at this point where we are ready to issue an RFP based on the concept of a private-public partnership, as you know, first of its kind. And so there's no model for it, but we believe that the team that we've assembled, the developers who have bid, are all first class and they're excited to go. Yes, we've had some delays due to COVID and what have you, but we're here now. And so I can't stress to this legislative body the importance of really thinking through how we do this, if we want to do this. And I don't think it's a question of if. I think we should do it. It's a lot of money over a longer term period, but the community will benefit. The community has been involved for years to have their handprint in what should go into that, whether it's hotels, of course, housing, jobs, not just building a stadium, a football stadium. And that's what the media has kind of focused on over the years. We absolutely want to partner with University of Hawaii. They're going to be a beneficiary. We all know in high school, it's a big deal to play in the stadium of that capacity, but we have other opportunities like women's soccer. And Ryan Andrews has gotten letters of intent for that purpose. We can create new opportunities for girls soccer here to create that excitement so we can create new programs for our community. So as well as I think when we talk to DOE superintendent, aligning the DOE culinary program with the kids to not only learn about food preparation, but prepare it and actually sell it at the stadium, as well as the community colleges. So we can crossbreed a lot of activities in this project over the 98 acres. 73 of them would be what we're talking about a district. So don't just look at the bill as a stadium. It has to go hand in hand with the vision of 98 acres over a 20-year period. And that's the magnitude of our decisions today. And so we just want to make sure that we don't lose any momentum. I wish we did it a couple of years ago when interest rates went an all-time low, but that's the way it goes, right? But we're on the cusp. Every economic cycle, as we all know, has its peaks and troughs. I feel that we're at the bottom of that trough, but we're starting to go up as rates start to climb. And so we still have this opportunity to do it right and have this opportunity to do it for the state of Hawaii. Thank you much.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Ryan Andrews, Acting Manager of Aloha Stadium. And I don't know if I can add much more than what you just heard, so I would like to amend our written testimony and to defer the testimony you just heard from both Comptroller as well as Craig Nakamoto. We are happily working together to provide language that will hopefully clarify this bill to reach its intended goals and obviously not result in any unintended consequences to our existing processes that we have going today. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thanks very much. Next up, we have John Kawamoto in opposition. So DOE with comments. Okay, we have DOT with comments. All right, members' questions. Kobayashi.
I just had a question for Comptroller Otaguro.
Yes, Representative.
Thanks. So yeah, I do remember the old termite palace. There, a lot of good Islander games, on a Puno football game back then. But I won't go into that any further. But one of the things, my concern about this project has been similar to other of our large public works projects that there was always an attempt by different financial interests to any of these projects insert themselves in the decision-making process. And my goal is always to minimize that effect and have it be more in terms of public benefit than private benefit. I've been looking at this and I'm just not smart enough to figure out whether this impacts that dynamic at all. And given that my experience is that you are smart enough to figure that out, I was wondering if you have an opinion as to whether this changes that dynamic at all, as to whether it makes it easier or harder for private interests to insert their will on this.
Thank you for the question, Representative, and don't say self-shirt, you're very smart. My personal opinion is that the integrity of this process that we've established through Chris Kinimaka and the project team is of high integrity, first and foremost. The procurement process has followed the books. They've hired or selected the right selection committees. They don't have a vested interest in the particular development aspect of it. Some of them are former state employees. I mean, they're just across the board. So they have great experience in terms of the selection aspect of it. With regard to the development itself, as you know, it's going to be broken down into two phases where we have a stadium and a real estate. The stadium is a different animal all to itself, and the real estate will be developed over a 20-year process. Now, that doesn't mean even when a developer is selected for the real estate, the state has the right and will exercise that right to not give them the development rights for all 73 acres all at once. They will manage it by parcels, what to be decided. And so it's at that point that the state will hold the developer accountable to make sure that they achieve the right objectives and the financial aspects of it. With regard to if you're saying any corruption or side dealings, I mean, it's hard for me to judge that with developers. The people that we have selected, or the people that have been selected in the short list, I believe have high integrity. And so that was part of the selection criteria. But that's all I really could say on that particular point.
Thanks a lot. That really helps. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Members' questions.
I have a question.
Majority Leader, please.
I really appreciate the explanation. And so I just want to, and I don't know who the right person is to ask, but is there something going on with the city zoning process that there would be a desire to have HCDA come in that's prompting some of this?
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Representative Bellotti. No, there isn't actually anything strange going on. And in fact, our collaboration with the city has been fantastic. They're moving lockstep with us and have agreed to move zoning as quickly as possible so that we can get our development moving forward. I believe this is just the Senate providing the best opportunity for us in the future to be self-governing, for the state to have a layer. Now, keep in mind that just because we have the state as a layer for zoning in the future, it doesn't mean that we won't continue to work with the city. HCDA could just as well say, look, we're going to adopt the city zoning. But what this does is give the state the ability to be self-governing when all of the rules are in place. But no, there's nothing fishy going on. We're actually very happy with all of the support that we've gotten from the mayor and from the city TOD zoning groups to support our efforts to move forward. They're just as excited as we are.
Okay, thank you.
Mahalo.
Thank you, Chair.
Much. Members, any further questions? If not, I have a question for HCDA. Just to be clear about what we're talking about, you folks do want the SDD responsibilities and authority, right?
Yeah, Chair, when it was presented to us, HCDA definitely wants to be part of the solution, and we want to be able to help where we can. And I feel like this is our responsibility. If there's a new community development district proposed, I think we should say yes. I made it very clear that HCDA does not want to build the stadium itself, but I feel like we should. Now, having said that about being part of the solution, I don't want to be part of the, I don't think HCD wants to be part of the impediment. So if there's a way to allow the RFP process to go forward and allow the the selected developers to work with city zoning and entitlements, then I'm okay with that too. And then that's why we propose a kind of a deferred effective date of the community development, the establishment of the Stadium Development Community District to sometime in the future. Now, keep in mind that during that time, because we're not an established district, we can't be promulgating rules because we're not an established district. The appropriation of 10 million to us for planning will have to be figured out because we won't be established as community development districts. But as I mentioned, we still can assist Stadium Authority, assist Dags if they need to, because actually we have an MOA we have an MOA in place to assist Stadium Authority and I believe Dags as well. So we can assist. So sorry for the long-winded response, Chair, but I want to make clear that we want to be part of the solution for this important project for the state. We're willing to do it, but we don't want to also impede progress on the good work that's been done by Stadium Authority and Dags, if that's the way that they're going to go with the.
Okay, thank you very much.
I hope I answered your question.
More or less, yes.
Okay.
More or less.
Well, I hope more than
So
less.
you're very open, I would say. You're open.
We're very open and also open to working collaboratively with Stadium Authority and Dags.
Okay, great. Comptroller. The Senate amended the bill to put the Stadium Authority back under DAG instead of DBED. Do you feel that this is the right way to go? And if so, why?
Thank you for that question, Chair. I believe it's the right thing to do. This has never been about, ownership or just putting walls just because. This is an important project, as I said. The state never has these opportunities once every decade. It's every almost century, once a century. And so the fact that we have a partnership with HCDA, the fact that they have development rights today, the fact that they have development expertise is what the Stadium Authority currently does not have. It's not that they can't get it, it's that was never their primary mission. And so, aligning, if our state can collaborate with one another and leverage the strong points of all the agencies, that's the power of this state. And so why recreate the wheel? So that's why we came together as united, because we believe that collaboration is going to be important in this. There's no one agency that has the expertise. And even with that, we're going to have to find some additional expertise, as you all know. Then that's just in the development aspect, the planning, the zoning, infrastructure. Once it's built, that's a whole different kind of collaboration that we're going to have to find and work together with. But it includes the legislature, right? So I personally am for this alignment. I think it's a good thing if we can all just work together and be transparent and have that pride of ownership go out the door, put the egos, check your egos at the door, and let's just get this thing done. It's important for this state.
Thank you. Members, we have a late testifier, so with your indulgence, John Kawamoto in opposition. John, are you with us today? Oh, in the room. Sorry, I was expecting to look up there.
Sorry, I'm late. On Zoom, but I clicked the wrong button. Thank you for allowing me to testify late. And plus, I'm kind of nervous, being around these high-powered guys.
No, we're all family here.
I'm a longtime UH football fan. but I oppose this bill. This bill proposes to fund an entertainment district at a time when so many of Hawaii's families are struggling just to get by financially. Their priority is not entertainment, but figuring out how to survive until their next paycheck. Aloha United Way conducted a study in 2018, which showed that 9% of Hawaii's families were living below the federal poverty level. An additional 33% were living above the federal poverty level, but did not earn enough to cover all of the necessities of daily living. These are families without savings that are one illness or one injury away from homelessness. Carl Bonham, Executive Director of UHERO, said, "People are getting by paycheck to paycheck, and there isn't much left at the end of the month for anything. And a big chunk of that goes toward housing. Hawaii needs affordable housing more than it needs an entertainment district. Many of the needed homes can be built at the Aloha Stadium site. Furthermore, they can be built at relatively low cost because the land belongs to the state. Land cost is about 1/3 of the total cost of a typical housing development, but in this case, it would be zero. Nevertheless, some people like the idea of the new Aloha Stadium. They believe that UH will play football there and draw lots of fans like before, and that Hawaii will field professional teams that play in soccer and rugby leagues. Consider what they hope for. UH football attendance has been dwindling for decades. The new UH stadium on campus has only 9,000 seats, but that was more than enough in the last game of the season when fewer than 6,000 people attended, even though there were no social distancing requirements. As for soccer and rugby, there's no precedent, no experience in these areas, not even a feasibility study. There have been other efforts to attract sporting events to Hawaii, but Hawaii's location in the middle of the Pacific, requiring hours of travel time to anywhere else, have discouraged them. There's not sufficient data at this time to show that a new stadium would be viable. Appropriating $350 million for it would be somewhat of a gamble. That's tax money that should be spent thoughtfully. The committee should hold this bill. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you for coming all the way out here. Appreciate it. Okay, members, are there any further questions on this measure? Seeing none, we'll move on to SB 3143 relating to conformity to the IRC. First up, we have our Director of DOTAX.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. This is the most exciting bill on your agenda today. And for the 10 years I was here, it was the most exciting bill that I read every single year. So if I can just take a few moments just to explain the bill, because I am going to be one of the few directors that truly understands this bill. This bill, in the hands of a very seasoned legislator or a good lobbyist, can do a lot of things, because what it does is it conforms to the Internal Revenue Code. And as you know, the Internal Revenue Code is thousands and thousands of pages. So as you guys all know, the state of Hawaii is a pickup state. We pick up where the Internal Revenue Service left off. And there's two ways that states conform to the Internal Revenue Code. One is called a rolling conformity. So whatever the federal government enacts, we just pick it up automatically. It's a rolling conformity. And the other one is a static conformity or point in time conformity, which really means, right, that every single year, this particular bill, right, has to pass to say, whatever you guys did in the past year for 1 year, right, we're going to pick up these particular changes. So you will be seeing a conformity bill every single year. So the conformity bill actually starts with the 86 Tax Reform Act. And every single year, a bill like this comes in to see if any of the changes to the 86 Act is something that we're going to pick up. Now, there are some tax laws that's not codified in Title 26 of the US Code, right? Title 26 is the Internal Revenue Code, right? There's provisions that's put, tax provisions that put otherwise. And therefore, you have to make a conscious effort to pick it up. That's what this particular bill does, right? We picked up stuff from the Rescue Act. We picked up stuff from the CARES Act, right? Which is not in Title 26. Last year, you guys were instrumental, right? In not picking up different parts of the tax code, right? In the PPP loan, right? Which I thought was a great decision of not conforming to the Internal Revenue Code, and the taxation of unemployment. But those were in different titles. It was not in 26, so it would not have shown up in this particular conformity bill. So right now, what we're saying in this particular bill, right? If you look carefully, yeah, there's I think 2 provisions, right? That was picked up in the Rescue Act and in the CARES Act. That is not in Title 26. So now what we're saying is, hey, we're going to pick up those 2 and add it, right, to our tax code. So the conformity bill really is just picking up what's in Title 26 and scouring the other provisions of law that may affect the tax code and putting it into our tax code, right? I made a bold statement that this particular bill was one of the most powerful bills you can do. I think last year was a great example, right? PPP and the unemployment. Very, those are just monumental decisions that this particular body made, which I totally agreed with. Okay, and for this Economic Development Committee, when we don't conform or conform to things like accelerated depreciation, right? That's going to help businesses, right? It affects businesses. So I know this particular bill is pretty boring to you folks, but for me, it was always one of the best bills to really enact policy, right? And help all different levels of the economy and the people of Hawaii. Okay? And I stand in support and on my written comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Choi. That was elucidating. Next up, we have Tax Foundation with comments. And I hope the comments will not be as long.
Man, what a tough act to follow. But I do agree that this bill is very important. It's very consequential, and we have very few comments on it. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Members, questions? Seeing none, we will recess for DM. Would the members care to join me in the back? Welcome back, members, to decision-making on our 10:30 a.m. agenda. First bill we have is SB 2377, SD1 related to state tax administration. We're going to be making some technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. Members, questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Senate Bill 2377 SD1, Chair's recommendation to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Belatti.
Aye.
Representative Kobayashi.
Aye.
Representative Onishi.
Aye.
Representative Sayama.
Aye.
Representative Takayama.
Aye.
Representative Okimoto.
Aye.
Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you ever so much, members. Next up, we have SB 2379 relating to the special enforcement section and tails wagging dogs. Members, I'd like to make some technical amendments, and that is all. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Senate Bill 2379 SD2, Chair's recommendation to pass with amendments, not in the presence of all members. Do we have any reservations or any no votes? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you so much, members. Next, we have SB 2599 relating to the tax credit for research activities. We're making technical amendments and defecting the defective date to 10/18/2050. Members, questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Senate Bill 2599 SD1, Chair's recommendation to pass with amendments, not in the presence of all members. Do we have any reservations or no votes? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next up, we have SB 3054 SD1 relating to the Hawaii Film and Creative Industries Development Special Fund. We'll keep the amounts blank and defect the effective date to 10/18/2050. Members, questions, comments, concerns? This is 3054.
Senate Bill 3054 SD1, Chair's recommendation to pass with amendments, not in the presence of all members. Do we have any reservations or no votes? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much, members. Next up, we have SB 3243 SD1 relating to economic development. We'll be making technical amendments. Members, questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Senate Bill 3243, Senate Draft 1, Chair's recommendation to pass with amendments, not in the presence of all members. Do we have any reservations or no votes? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next up, we have SB 3337 SD2 relating to the economy. We will be taking Chamber's amendment to add in Section 3, Paragraph 2F, after cybersecurity requirements and for workforce and economic development of other defense-related sectors. We will also keep all dollar amounts blank and defect the defective date to 10/18/2050. Members, questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Senate Bill 3337, Senate Draft 2, Chair's recommendation to pass with amendments, not in the presence of all members. Do we have any reservations or no votes? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much, members. Next up, we have our Omnibus SB 3334 relating to government operations. I am extremely happy to see HCDA, Dags, and Stadium Authority here today. I think that that's exactly what we need to be doing. It's hard for me to recall other instances of agencies kind of working things out and figuring it out. So I'm very glad that you're going down that path. However, we have a House position and we have a Senate position right now, I think. And the original intent of this bill was to transfer most of these responsibilities to DBED. So we will be substantially changing the bill to revert a lot of these lines back to the House position. So 109-1 will be amended to administratively place the Stadium Authority in DBED. We will strike any reference to the Stadium Authority going to HCDA. And we have a lot of cleanup to do. So we have these two different subsections of the representatives of the stadium community developments. We need a technical amendment that will separate the two lists by creating new subsections, which will require the entire section to be set out rather than only setting out subsections. And all reference of transferring the powers of stadium authority found in any section in page 35 or elsewhere. The stadium authority will exist in DBED and will have all of its powers. So no reference to any powers going to Dags or HCDA. We're going to keep everything under DBED. And then relative to BNF's concerns, we'll be adding a section 11 and then a section 600, where we stipulate that Director of Finance authorized to issue GO bonds in the sum of $20 million. We'll be striking out the 170. So much thereof for fiscal year 2019-2020. Provided that the appropriation made for the capital improvement project authorized by this section shall not lapse at the end of the fiscal year for which the appropriation is made, provided further that all monies from the appropriation unencumbered as of June 30, 2024 shall lapse as of that date. And we will be affecting the effective date. We'll just go 10/18/2050. Members, do we have, did I miss anything? Let me just check. I believe that is all. Questions, comments, concerns?
I have a comment.
Please, Majority Leader.
Thank you. So I really appreciated the testimony and the collaboration that we're seeing. And I guess the way I understand this process is that there's House and Senate positions, but as the testifier said, this is such an important project and development for the state that the conversations should continue. I think given our situation with dealing with these big types of policy questions, there's a lot of room for collaboration between the House and the Senate, between the agencies and everybody. So I really appreciate the chair's work on this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, any further questions, comments, or concerns? None, Vice Chair.
Senate Bill 3334, SD2, Chair's recommendation to pass with amendments done in the presence of all members. Do we have any reservations? Any no votes? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. I skipped the bill, so we'll be going back to SB2808, related to the Hawaii Technology Development Corporation. Keep all amounts blank. Effective date 10/18/2050. Members, questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Senate Bill 2808, SD1, Chair's recommendation to pass with amendments not in the presence of all members. Do we have any reservations or no votes? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you ever so much, members. And next up, we have, and certainly not least, Director Choi's favorite bill of the year, SB 3143. The recommendation is to pass as is. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Senate Bill 3143, Chair's recommendation to pass as is, not in the presence of all members. Do we have any reservations or no votes? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you so much, members. We are adjourned. Thanks, you guys.